All right, so welcome everybody. If you don't, for those of you, Steve and Ihor weren't able to make it today, so I volunteered to run the meeting. Let's see. I don't have a lot of experience running these things, so so I guess we can be. So I've kind of been running through. Have either of you had a chance to run through the pull requests or issues?
I'm not.
Not recently, no.
Okay, I was going through them this morning, and I don't know, how is that typically done in the meetings? Do we go through all of the requests, or how does that work?
To be honest, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, David, go more.
Oh no, I was gonna say, to be honest, I haven't been attending in a while, so I don't I don't honestly know. But I got revitalized after the PTG, so that's
Okay, cool. Well, we'll work on that momentum. How about you, Luke?
High priority ones or ones that have been identified that we need assistance on, or the ones.
Yeah, so it looks like, I mean, so for starters, it looks like we have a bunch of new issues, largely related to, hold on just a second. Largely related to the load balancers, and some DNS items. I'm not sure exactly how we should triage them. Also just, I mean, it looks like, issues with the support of tenant versus project names. Some config drive issues. Yeah, and these are all fairly new. Don't know if I have the right amount of experience to say a whole lot on them. I do have a tracking issue open for that I just opened up. This is my issue, so I can definitely speak to it. Let's see if I can share my screen. So I'm working with a few providers. Huawei and Yahoo have both talked about offering some test resources. I'm also talking with I'm trying to. I think OVH is also offering up some cloud resources, and this is to be able to start enabling some end-to-end testing on top of an OpenStack provider. So what I'm hoping that before the end of I guess this month, September, that we'll have the public cloud provider up and running and integrated with some CI/CD. So I'm going to be meeting with OVH later sometime this week, and also with the CNCF to see how we can integrate into their CI/CD system.
Is there this has come up before, and like I think there was an Intel Rackspace cloud, or who was like a joint, I forget the name of that cloud that kind of went by the wayside.
Right.
So it's been a while. Forgive me, it's been a while since we discussed this. But first of all, if there's anything I can do, that's definitely towards my wheelhouse more on the field automation and CI/CD stuff. So let me know if there's something I can do to help on the technical side of that.
Okay, what is your exactly what's your experience with that? Because I might lean on you for that once I get the credentials up.
In the past, so I also have some colleagues that I lean on that are looking for ways to help too, but that are very OpenStack savvy, so in the automation and side of actually deploying OpenStack. And then I'm more familiar on the tooling side of some of the specific services and using it more as a user. But on the automation side, Ansible and Jenkins are pretty familiar with, and be able to hack something together if we need to. I don't know what they're. Do we have a doc of like, is the plan to just test the latest version of OpenStack, have a standing OpenStack cloud that we can test against, or provision everything automatic, a fresh cluster every time, and try different, with or without Ceph, for example, or with or without.
So
depends what the mix looks like.
So the answer to that is yes. All of this. We're talking with the testing team for the release gate, which is kind of where we're looking at getting in first. And if I'm right, it's run by the CNCF CI/CD system. They support a number of different providers, and those are just stable cloud providers. And so that would include, say, like AWS and Azure. And so the first step is to have some stable OpenStack cloud provider, which is out there in production, either as a public or a private cloud, be that test gate. And then as we, and that's just going to be like our starting point, because right now I don't think anybody's running end-to-end tests in any automated fashion against an OpenStack cloud. So that's kind of the first step. From there, I've spoken with the OpenStack infrastructure team about the resources that are going to be available for them, and we're going to have more of an opportunity to, say, spin up a multi-node DevStack cluster and start testing the provider against that once Zool v3 has been integrated and they've kind of shaken out those shaking out the bugs with that interface. And the nice thing about Zool v3 is that it's able to be triggered off of external GitHub projects. So we should be able to not only have a stable end-to-end test, but we should also be able to have a bunch of, we could set up a job that would run against multiple versions of OpenStack or use different type of storage providers. Maybe use different types of load balancers. We're going to have a lot of options to really kind of spin up the clouds that we want. That's longer term, though. I think that in the short term, we just want to have the most basic end-to-end testing up, because right now we're just, regressions are slipping through and we just don't catch them.
Yeah, and the last time we ran like end-to-end testing against the cloud OpenStack provider, it was unclear whether some of the tests, like for example, should ever work or or ever did. So definitely having some, at the very least, that with like this latest stable OpenStack would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yep.
Yeah. Let me know if there's a doc for input, or if there's like, we could probably also go to the user survey too, to just kind of get like at least the initial template for what the most reasonable set is. But
yeah, I think that's good. And and I have this tracking issue 52249, which is that's where I'm tracking this work on it. And we're looking at, I was hoping that one of the public clouds would be available at the end of September or sometime in October, but they're telling me realistically they're not going to have it available until December, and that's on the Yahoo side. And it looks like on the Huawei side they're also they're probably going to have it available earlier, but I think they're going to be focused more on Gopher Cloud testing rather than Kubernetes testing.
So it's Huawei, and what's the other? Sorry, is it Yahoo?
Yeah, Yahoo Oath. Is that their new name, Oath?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is the new name?
Oath.
OATH.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Verizon for you.
Okay, yeah, because one of the other concerns, by the way, also is one of my colleagues is a KubeSpray maintainer, and for the also provisioning of Kubernetes, it would, if that's also something to keep in mind of having a reoccurring cluster that other sort of, whether incubator projects or like external cloud providers or related Kubernetes ecosystem stuff can be tested against would be.
Is that the preferred way for deploying Kubernetes right now? KubeSpray, and that takes advantage of kubeadmin. Is that right?
They're just doing the port over to kubeadmin. It's mainly a large amount of Ansible right now.
Okay.
There's a PR, a work in progress PR to get it transferred over to kubeadmin, and that will greatly simplify the whole process from what it is now. But yeah, for OpenStack, it's that or really rolling your own right now. Unless you do again, unless you use kubeadmin with then a lot of glue, a lot of glue code.
Okay. Okay.
There's more options for the other cloud providers.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Kind of moving through the other issues. These are kind of just like the general issues of just getting Gopher Cloud up to speed, like refactoring the OpenStack cloud provider. Particularly splitting the versions out, so like load balancer support. And I actually think there are multiple load balancers, and so being able to switch and choose between these things, I think, is pretty important. There's been a pull request open for that. Kubeup.sh does not work. So again, this is probably something that maybe I wish if Steve or Ihor were here, we could talk about this a bit more. It seems like the heap provider has not been maintained, and that it's in our best interests to try to get references to that removed. I don't know if anybody has thoughts about that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of when it has worked. So.
Yeah.
And I think the maintainers are off on other efforts. So have we heard from any of them on any of these issues?
No. It might just make sense to leave a comment. Just leave a comment there. Yeah. All right. More issues. Cinder version detection fails and is incorrect. John Griffith has been helping out on this. But again, this looks like it's largely a Gopher Cloud issue. So we're gonna have weekly meetings about this. I'll get to this too once we get later into the meeting and we talk about what happened at the OpenStack PTG with some of the things that went on there with the SIG Kubernetes meeting.
Yeah, because I'm curious about Gopher Cloud and microversions and whether that support should be in Gopher Cloud or somewhere else. So, but
yeah, so apparently, and actually, I guess since you asked about it, so they're looking at supporting that in Gopher Cloud, and the problem is that having a strongly typed Go is strongly typed and static, right? So having a strongly typed language like that makes it difficult to like it's easy to have very dynamic behavior with regards to microversions in languages like Python. But I think that the way they're going to do it is just looking at grouping clusters of capabilities as subclasses. I guess clusters of microversions, and so maybe microversion 1 through 10. have that be one subclass for the provider, so that you just instantiate the class that matches the micro version you want, and you get all of the features available to that. But that's open for active discussion inside of the Gopher Cloud development right now. That was kind of the last we talked about it at the PTG. And we said,
yeah, I guess another conversation I'd heard was just whether or not we wanted to try to do something like Keystone Auth, but for Gopher Cloud, and try and isolate that logic outside of it. But I don't. Maybe that's not an ideal solution. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's that was. I'm a little bit deeper in the weeds on Keystone Auth 2, but I think that getting Keystone v3 and Keystone Auth into Gopher Cloud is also one of the things that they're going to be working on. So I think that's on the menu.
Okay.
Yeah. So looks like this is more of a general, but I don't know if this looks like it's an OpenStack storage bug. Stateful sets are unable to mount center volumes of stateful sets. Adding end-to-end tests, because I guess there was a regression, so we kind of covered that a bit. So I think this is interesting. There's a high load on the Nova Compute API. I guess that kubelets are making requests every 10 seconds to fetch the IPs of VMs. It sounds like other cloud providers cache this and OpenStack doesn't. And there's some discussion here about whether or not it's whether that's an implementation problem, or if there's something else that we should be doing, like just assuming that IPs within OpenStack are stable. I don't know. It's an interesting discussion, but yeah, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that. Yeah, Cloud Controller Manager. Looks like this might cover a lot of different providers. And again, handling stopped instances across cloud providers. There's an effort to kind of coordinate how cloud providers behave, which I'm involved with. I kind of kicked it off. I don't have much more to add on it. Yeah, I'm just going to run through these issues, and if there's anything that someone wants me to stop at, just let me know. Looks like a Grafna. So DIMS is looking at supporting, adding support for project name and changing from tenant to project. But it looks like the consensus might be that instead of adding, we shouldn't be adding new configuration options until Gopher Cloud supports it. So again, kicking more issues back down to Gopher Cloud. Support probing of floating network ID. This is one of those tricky things where some OpenStack clouds require that you use floating IPs and some just hand IPs out directly. But I think the way Kubernetes works, you need a floating IP. So
I don't. I can look. I don't think that's actually always the case. But I don't know if that's because one of my clients was doing pretty much provider network and some custom stuff, or if that was because that's how normally it works, to be honest. but we did not have floating IPs in at least one of the environments I've worked on.
Okay.
And it's a large, like 1,000 nodes.
Yeah. Well, if you have a chance to look at this pull request, there's some.
Yeah, it's 52013.
Yeah.
You can look down.
And maybe leave some feedback on it. It looks pretty basic. I ran through it. And it's basically specify floating IP pool or it searches for one.
So this is only if you're using the service type load balancer.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's going to take the floating IP and it's going to reassign the floating IP. It's going to use the floating IP for the load balancer.
I'll look at it. I'm not sure if I can. I don't know the internals of the load balancer part where to know if that's required or not. So
yeah.
In our environment, we could not use that because they had a custom. That was one of the custom pieces, was a custom LBAS plugin.
Okay.
That was not compatible with our cloud provider.
Yeah. Again, refactoring the OpenStack provider, splitting by versions. So, David, this might interest you. They have they're splitting up the load balancer into V1, V2, as well as volume V1, V2, and naturally that's going to add volume V3 also at some point once that's supported. But it looks like a fairly yeah, it's.
Yeah, my fear is that you just end up with 1 point or 2.1, 2.2, 2.3.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be. I mean, it almost seems like there's some thought's going to have to go into exactly how to parameterize what versions that you want, because a lot of it depends too upon what the cloud responds with. Like it's a whole negotiation process to say what, especially when you're in micro versions, which version of the API you want to work against.
Right.
Angus also suggested that if we're doing a refactoring, we should also just drop all the OpenStack underscore names since it's already in an OpenStack directory. So it looks like this code change is going to be a little bit. It's going to add a little bit more, a little bit extra. It's going to need more work. Let me see some more. Auto probing of nodes, security group for OpenStack cloud provider, and a lot of these are coming from. It looks like Fengyun has a lot of is doing a lot of upstream work. So it looks like DIMS looks like it's good. Some PR tests, some EDE tests that are still failing. Yeah, but it looks like it's been approved. User-friendly load balancer names. So then we're getting into more. This is more general cloud provider stuff. So the Amazon teams weighed in on it. Azure team. I think worth taking a look at. I don't know if it would actually work with the OpenStack cloud provider though. Again, this is where it would be nice to have the end-to-end tests up and running. Don't filter cloud provider nodes. This looks like it's for general cloud provider consistency. There was a mailing list article on that. Allow service annotations to override specified settings in cloud config. Again, this looks like a generic provider. Oh, this is actually OpenStack, the OpenStack load balancer. This is older, but it's been worked on for a good almost the entire year, and it looks like I think it may have been approved. Yeah, but it needs rebase. I guess maybe not. Release note none. This is also something too that we should probably start asking people to add release notes, because we had no release notes for the last release. Seems like if we're, these are feature changes, and so they should be coming with release notes. So this is actually this PR is nearly a year old, but this is for using Cinder without the without the OpenStack cloud provider.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like there are some license conflicts. So it looks like it needs more work. Yeah, but it's in progress. Something to keep, something to look at. I think it's actually pretty pretty important. And then these are older pull requests, removing the load balancer version 1. I mean, kind of in the OpenStack world, we like to keep things around for a long time, but I don't know if there are any V1 load balancers out there that much. I don't know if anyone knows about that. Added instance metadata search order. Oh, these are newer, actually. These aren't older. These are newer. So, yeah, it looks. If you want to help out with the pull requests, you can take a look at these. I guess it's the check from this. This was mentioned before, where if the config drive isn't there, then you can check from the metadata service. I think this is addressing an older issue. Right. So it looks like it needs work. Remove LBAS v1. So does anyone? So Angus is asking, is anyone using this? David or Rob or Luke?
No, I don't know of anybody using it.
Using what now? Which PR is that?
LBAS v1. This is 52717. Can you actually see my screen? Is this showing up on your screens?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
One of my engagements was using it, but thankfully they're at V2 now.
Okay.
So I know, I think it's what was Time Warner Cable. Charter is using LBAS v1, but they're not using it in conjunction with Kubernetes, so it wouldn't affect this.
Okay. All right. I'll leave a note to that effect. At least one. Should we suggest a deprecation period, or?
Yeah, I don't know how that's usually that's in the release note somewhere of a deprecation warning.
Yeah. Maybe we should. Yeah. Yeah. Deprecate for one release, for one release, and then remove.
there. I don't really know what would be what's the normal within this community.
Yeah, I mean, the OpenStack world, that's pretty much, I mean, usually you have to deprecate for, I know that for the interoperability working group, you deprecate for one cycle and then remove in the next.
Kubernetes cycles just being a bit shorter is the only concern there.
I think that's fine though, because it's been deprecated in the OpenStack land for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that we already saw, I think we saw this one. Better default name. No name is not equal to host name. Okay, it looks like it's open for discussion here. So this is a, if you have comments on this, yeah. Yeah, Angus is looking for conversation on this patch, so I would, if you have a chance to look at it, 52625. So git load balancer only returns a VIP, so this returns a floating IP also.
How does that sounds like it might conflict with that other PR.
Right. Yep, because this is using the V1 load balancer.
Yeah, along with the other floating IP. Like it seems like we have, but it seems like we have 3 PRs that might all conflict with each other or need.
Yeah. Yep. This will change, so it should have a release note. Yeah, that's interesting. I should also, since this pull request is in here, this probably might be useful to leave a note on the other about where did that go? Oh, yeah, leave a note saying that it looks like someone's using V1 if they're sending pull requests against it. So in this pull request, it looks like again, this is another V1 load balancer. So, but he's saying that it looks like he's just doing bug fixes here, and I think that's maybe why he's trying to remove the V1 LBAS. So, I think it's probably worth taking that discussion to the mailing list actually. I should be making notes too inside of the. Is anyone keeping notes for me?
Are these all? These are PRs, right?
These are PRs, yeah.
I'm just having a problem finding the LBAS.
So if you go to the Google Doc, there's a link to the mailing list where there's the triage, and that's where I pulled this list out. Is you can go there and you can get a list of all the open pull requests and issues.
Oh, okay, good, nice.
This looks like a general E2E cloud provider. Looks like a general cloud provider issue here. Yeah. That kind of covers it for all of the pull requests. With the last, I guess, 10 minutes or so, we can talk a bit about the OpenStack Summit and at the OpenStack PTG and what happened there. So the OpenStack community, kind of following along with what other communities are doing, has created the idea of special interest groups, which are supposed to cover issues affecting users and developers, and kind of give a single governance structure for people to talk about issues around a particular subject. And I work for the OpenStack Foundation, and I've taken on some of the work of coordinating collaboration between the OpenStack and Kubernetes communities. And so since we have this new SIG structure, and we've talked about in the past at the OpenStack forum in Boston about creating more formal structures to communicate with the Kubernetes community, we kind of decided that we would form this SIG Kubernetes, which would essentially be the sister organization inside of the OpenStack Foundation to the to Kubernetes SIG OpenStack. So we had a pretty good turnout here. I originally proposed it to as many mailing lists as I could get to. So that was the SIG OpenStack mailing list, the OpenStack SIGs mailing list, and the OpenStack Dev mailing list, and have a bunch of links just kind of outlining how this works. We're looking at organizing so that we have 2 chairs. And so I think they kind of informally voted me to be one of the first chairs, but we would also be looking at having a second chair participate so that we can share a little bit of load. And one of the things that I also proposed is that we have some formal recognition of the leadership structure within the Kubernetes SIGs. So that would mean right now, recognizing that Ihor and Steve are, in some ways leaders of this community also, and have and should have a significant voice on how things go. One of the concerns that Steve and Ihor both had was that we would be pulling away resources away from the Kubernetes community and from this SIG, and that's not my intention at all. My hope is to actually have more people showing up to these meetings, and our initial proposal is to share the meetings. Maybe even do something where we schedule the SIG Kubernetes meetings at the same time, but maybe do a TikTok structure where on off weeks we'll have meetings in IRC, to kind of have a more OpenStack meeting structure. But right now I'm encouraging people to come to this meeting. So thanks to David for coming at my suggestion. There will be some places where there isn't necessarily overlap. Like we have a bunch of Kubernetes related projects within the OpenStack community, like Cola Kubernetes and OpenStack Helm. Looks like OOO is also going to be basing some of their work on Kubernetes. There are internal projects like Magnum, which is a Kubernetes deployer. The Nova provider for the Kubernetes autoscaler. But we're also going to be encouraging side-by-side efforts like, Courier Kubernetes or standalone Cinder on Ironic. Even people talking about, I guess there are projects where that leverage OpenStack and Keystone to add multi-tenancy to Kubernetes. But right now, the big thing that we're trying to do is get more eyes on Gopher Cloud and get more eyes on the upstream provider. From my point of view, the Gopher Cloud and the upstream provider being, not in the greatest shape means that people look at OpenStack and think that OpenStack is broken, and that's not where we want to be. We want to be on this kind of the same playing field as things like Azure and AWS. So in the short term, those are my primary priorities for what we want to do from there, which means getting as many people as we can fed back into upstream work. And at the PTG, Huawei and Intel are forming we talked with Huawei and Intel. They're forming a partnership right now where they want to provide more support for application development on top of OpenStack, and kind of the initial starting points for that are the improving Gopher Cloud and improving the Kubernetes, the OpenStack provider in Kubernetes. So we're pretty motivated. We're going to have about, I'm estimating, somewhere around 8 developer resources devoted to these efforts. They may not be placed entirely on it, but I'm hoping that in the coming weeks we're going to see a really significant push to start sending new code up and making a serious effort to make the OpenStack provider first class. I don't know if there are any questions on that. Well, did anyone else have anything else to add to the meeting?
The only thing I know, I'm getting more involved with the SIG docs past couple months, and one of the things I just noticed was that we have a single PR. I think we kind of touched on this on a couple of PRs for needing updates to documentation, release notes, etc. So there's the standard disclaimer there. Please help with that. I don't if it's in a raw form and need help on verbiage, I can definitely, or if you point me to what needs better documentation, and that it would be something that the developer might need help on, let me know. But I noticed that the only one there's an update to cloudproviders.md, but it's not clear for 1.8. It looks like I don't see any other documentation updates. So.
Yeah, I know that for the release notes, none of the PRs that were merged were tagged with they're all tagged with the release note none, and so Steve hadn't provided any release notes. I thought it was worth mentioning that most of the changes for the last release were mainly with regards to stability, and then there was some debate as to whether or not that warranted a release note. So, but as far as the other documentation goes, I think that just a documentation review would be worthwhile.
Okay. Yeah. So that might be something. So they're talking about like a documentation hackathon sometime around KubeCon, during that week at KubeCon.
Oh, okay.
So that I think that's still on the plate of some of the Google Receptio guys and myself talking about that. So that might be a good opportunity to do like interested parties just go through all the OpenStack pieces and just see what's up. We could also certainly think about, if you think that would be helpful, to do a scrub outside of that, then let me know. I haven't looked at the OpenStack provider specific or information lately, to be honest.
Okay.
But it might not be a bad idea to get, just to maybe spend one of these meetings talking through it, or doing a review separately, and then coming back and farming it out of any updates that need to be done.
Yeah, can you add links to that to the Google Doc?
So I don't know if I don't believe they have a Google Doc going yet for what we would do with that.
Okay. Yeah, or just a note on the SIG OpenStack working doc.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Was there anything else? David or Rob?
I don't have
Nothing from me.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for for putting up with my rough meeting style. I'll learn from Stephen E. Hormore.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Have a good couple weeks.
Yep, thanks. You too.